Gary Logan,
Howdy.
thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV.
No, pleasure as always.
We have to begin with, I guess, back with Chisora Fury, that strange event.
Strange, wasn't it?
Very strange.
What can you say? Derek just didn't show up. Tyson did, and Derek didn't. Simple as, really.
Did you expect that? I think, well...
Gosh, no, I didn't. I thought that, Derek was so out of shape in the first fight that I thought he was going to really work his socks off to put things right. And physically, he was in much better shape, but mentally, he just wasn't there. And Charles knew that. That's why Charles was saying to me, even as early as the end of the first round, what's going on, because obviously they had a game plan going in for the first round, and obviously Derek's deviated, gone away from the plan straight away, and Charles is flummoxed. So he's asking him, and every other round he was asking what the problem was, and there was a couple of, Derek was mentioning a couple of things what he couldn't do, and then by the end of it, he was just quite morose, wasn't he? Charles wasn't getting anything out of him.
Yeah.
So, very sad.
Don Charles would be really upset because he was really, really, really confident that Derek could cause the upset.
Yeah, Don. Don Charles is he's one of my favourite passionate trainers.
Yes.
Because you got other trainers that sort of keep their cards close to their chest, but Charles, man, he just says it how he feels, and I really do respect that about him. He's very passionate about the fighters that he trains, and he's very caring about them. And,
absolutely.
And that's the way, and that should permeate through to the fighter. That really, that feeling of confidence should bounce off, and the fighter should feed off it. And I always thought that in the past it has done. But on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, let's not undervalue the performance that Fury put forward. He did. Between him and Peter Fury, they put through a very, very effective, quite Klitschko-like display.
I turned around to Tyson, and me and him always have back and forths. And in the last interview I had with Tyson, I said to him, "Well, you know what? You talk about Cunningham, you talk about you're going to blow Chisora away." I said, "But you're vulnerable to the overhand right." I said, "Against small guys, you seem to be very vulnerable to it." He says, "Well, just for you, I'm gonna do something only you will appreciate." He turned southpaw, and I should have clicked on. I should have clicked to that because he did the same thing against Marty Rogan as well. He turned southpaw to avoid the overhand right.
Definitely, but you know what? Styles make fights, and he's applied. Those are two. With all due respect to Derek and all due respect to Martin Rogan, they made the best of what they had.
Yes.
They made the best of what they had. Derek broke into world class with a very good display against, and now, as we recognise, fading Vitali. And then, as we know, he went into the David Haye fight, and that was all about levels. David Haye is on a talent level, was on a talent level, and still is, I do believe, on most of the world's heavyweights. So he was able to exploit Derek's.
Let me hold you right there. Let me hold you back right there just for a second. Were you in the corner the night when Chisora fought Haye?
No, I wasn't allowed to. The board said no. The board said if anybody when they were kicking off and all the license holding crap. But you know what? Don't even get me started on the board now, because they've got a lot to answer to for Chris Eubank Sr. being in his son's corner, because I'm pretty much sure he hasn't got a seconds license. And the last I heard, when you look at the British Boxing Board of Control manual, you're supposed to wear suitable attire in the corner.
Okay, we'll go to that. We'll go back. We'll definitely touch that. So we'll come round to that. Sorry, we'll get round to that. So you weren't in the corner of the night. I want to just very quickly.
I was at the venue. I was in the changing room beforehand, but obviously for legal reasons, anybody who held a British Boxing Board of Control license, I just didn't. Between me and Adam Booth at the time, we agreed that it was best I wasn't in the corner.
Well, you obviously saw the third round where Chisora clipped Haye at the end of the third.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about that? Because a lot of people said the bell rang 10 seconds earlier, and if Chisora had gone on, he could have done this and that.
Hey, because you know what? I'll tell you something, right? I absolutely abhor the word "if" in sport.
Right.
If, would have, could have, and should have. absolutely blow my mind, right?
Yeah.
There ain't no if, woulda, coulda, and shoulda, yeah? Listen, Muhammad Ali's legacy might have been tainted had the glove not ripped open against Henry Cooper, but it didn't, yeah? All the history books say is Muhammad Ali, TKO 6th, Henry Cooper, yeah?
Yeah.
It doesn't say David Haye, TKO Derek Chisora, but Chisora hurt him at the end of the third round. What would have happened? Let's forget that, please.
Okay, all right, okay,
listen,
okay.
Derek can hit a little bit. When heavyweights clip each other on the chin, any one of them can drop the other. Doesn't mean the other man hasn't got a chin. Just mean he got wobbled. David may have been wobbled, but I saw him get wobbled against Vladimir Klitschko, and he still went 12 rounds against one of history's biggest punching heavyweight world champions.
That's fair play.
Don't even get me started on that. Don't even get me started on that.
Okay, so we'll move swiftly on.
Winners write history, yeah? Winners write history.
That's true. I just wanted to say that because I would get shot down if I didn't ask the question, well, what did you think if I didn't ask the question? So
I thought nothing. All I saw was that David looked in fantastic shape for the fight, so I knew that one shot alone wasn't going to get him out of there. It might have happened at the end of the third round. It might have happened in the middle round. I knew David Haye was destined to win that fight.
Okay, we can move on.
That's right, we move on.
Not Derek Chisora, Chris Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank Sr., the Chris Eubank Roadshow.
Yeah, that's what it is, the Roadshow. and I'm hoping it doesn't end the way I see it ending, with this kid of really, really good, raw, natural talent not realising his talent because certain other elements are getting in the way of his learning process, because he's not learning. And that fight showed us it. All that fight showed us, what he will have learned is that he can do 12 rounds. That's what he'll have learned. He'll have learned that starting off at a slow pace, he can do 12 rounds. But he was getting caught far too much in the early rounds, and he was flummoxed in the early rounds. He changed it around, but when it came down to basic boxing ability, Billy Joe Saunders was by far the better man in my book.
Was that because, basically, for the first 5 rounds, Eubank was trying not to fight late on, or what?
Listen, if that was his game plan, and he's not, let me tell you, if you're relying on knocking somebody out late in a fight, you realistically need to rely on them not having a chin, them fatiguing awfully, and you having better than a 75% knockout record. That means that you bang hard every round. Would you say that Eubank does that?
Well,
would you say that he's a world-class puncher? Which is, if you're knocking out 75% of your opponents, you're approaching world-class punching. Yeah? Would you say Eubank is?
You couldn't, could you?
No, of course you can't. You look at his record, it's not. You can't. He's not stopped anybody on that level. So for them to think that Billy Joe Saunders is going to enter into the biggest fight of his life and not be in shape to go through 12 rounds at a pace, and them come on late in the fight and stop him, is insane. Because let me tell you something. You lose, it's like Hagler Leonard. Everybody goes crazy and says, Hagler was robbed. No, he weren't. He lost 4 out of 5 rounds. You lose the first 4 rounds of any fight, you've got to win the next 4 rounds just to go in the 9th round even. So if Leonard nicks every 2 rounds, he's got the fight won. Has he not?
Yeah, agreed.
There you go.
But
this is the same thing.
See, but the thing is, for this fight, Billy Joe Saunders has always had a question mark about his stamina, and that did show down the stretch. He did tire. But in all the fights that I've seen him tire, never once have I seen him wobble or even look like fading to the point where, I'll tell you the closest it came to it was John Ryder. Okay.
And that was always going to be a tough fight, because I always say 2 southpaws fighting always makes for either an awful fight or a really good fight. And that was a really, really good fight. And Ryder sort of dropped the pace once again because he'd never done 12 rounds. He questioned whether, in his mind, in the back of his mind, he questioned whether he could do 12 rounds. And when he needed to go up a gear, he couldn't or he wouldn't, whereas Billy Joe can.
Okay.
You know, I personally think harder punchers, world-class hard punchers, will always give Billy Joe trouble late in the fight because he does fatigue somewhat. But you know what? Can't knock an unbeaten record right now, man.
You can't, but
can't knock it.
The other thing, and Billy Joe Saunders, let's give him credit. He did fight very well on the night. He stood in the pocket, like he said to me in the interview.
Yeah.
I will stand in the pocket and I will trade. He did that. Yeah. He was a man of his word. So you got to give him credit for that. As for the Eubank corner, there's more questions than answers.
Yeah, well, you know, everything. Well, what are the questions? I don't think there's questions. I think everything we saw everything that we know. Everything that I know from experience of watching him in the gym, his interaction with Ronnie Davis, his interaction with his father in the gym. I just don't think, you know, if the father wants to be his trainer, he should take over his training.
What was he doing for the first 5 rounds as a trainer? I mean, what's his name? Ronnie Davis was there, and he had another trainer in the corner. Ignoring both of those trainers.
Mate, let me tell you something, right? What can I say? If he's gonna react to me in the corner the way he was reacting to Ronnie, and saying what he said to Ronnie, you know, everyone stopped talking, he wouldn't have seen me in the corner in the next round. I'd have walked back to the changing room because obviously you don't need to hear me. He's not respecting he's not respecting what I've got to give him. You know, it's very frustrating because, as I said before the fight, he's a very, very interesting raw talent. Number one, because of his dad's name, and number two is that he has got something about him. There is some star quality waiting to come out. But what we saw in that fight is that even though he throws decent hooks and decent uppercuts, he hasn't got the fundamentals. And at middleweight class level, at middleweight elite level, you need the fundamentals. You need to be able to hold your own somewhat with a jab, and you just need to have a high level of quality in your shots and actually know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to this point, I don't think he does.
So how does this dynamic work? I heard a story that he told Ronnie Davis to shut up in the corner.
Yeah.
That was a big thing when it went across Facebook. So that's the first thing. So you don't need your trainer there. So what's your trainer doing? Then you've got your dad in the corner, standing up. I spoke to James Ali Bashir, and he told me that Eubank looked like a pimp in London or a preacher. What was the purpose of him being there? What was he doing apart from posing?
Well, you saw it from the minute. I mean, you have to see one of my really good one of my episodes. 2 sets of sound TV controls on. Somebody said to me that, and he nailed it. He said he's got a god complex. Dad's got a god complex, and he has. He doesn't want to. He's his way of doing things, and only his way. But don't let that hinder your fighter. I mean, you've got a lot of knowledge. You are a class boxer, a bit unorthodox, but you're a class boxer. It seems to me that you are the only voice that your son listens to. So, as they then say to you, take up the coaching full time. You know, do this thing properly, because you're the only one that your son's listening to. So do it properly. So, you know, don't hinder the kid's career.
I'm a bit confused about this. Yeah, I've known Ronnie Davis for quite a few years, even when I used to box. But the thing I've never understood, even when I lived in Brighton, even when I watched Eubank run, when I used to go for my runs in the morning, I never understood the relationship between Ronnie Davis and Chris Eubank. It looked a very disrespectful relationship, and the son has gone one step above that in terms of disrespect. Why does Ronnie Davis put up with it, or is he getting paid very good money?
Who knows? Each to their own, isn't it? It really is each to their own. I mean, Ronnie's a lovely man.
Yeah, he is. He's
a lovely, lovely man. And, you know, maybe he loves boxing so much, and maybe there's definitely an affection for Eubank Senior. There's definitely an affection there. So, wow. You know, it's crazy. It's like asking a woman who's been domestically abused why she stays with a partner.
Indeed.
You know, I mean, it's on those levels sometimes.
It is on the levels.
It's deep.
But do you think it's because of those world title defences and travelling around the world and and giving Ronnie Davies that sort of life that he probably wouldn't have had he not had Chris Eubank, that he kind of feels indebted to Eubank?
That could be a good reason. That could be a good reason. That could be a very good reason. I can't put my finger on it. I just can't put my finger on it, and I'm just hoping that, let's just hope that this kid makes it, and let's just hope that he is back in interesting fights, and he has got. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's no if, he will be in interesting fights, but with the equipment that he's got right now, will that be enough for him to move back into world circles? That's the question.
Good question. And on the back of that, Spike O'Sullivan spoke to me a few days ago, and he said that Chris Eubank Jr. called him Billy Joe Saunders' girlfriend. He says he wants to knock him out, he wants to hurt him, and he wants to fight, and Eubank's been skipping the fight ever since. What do you think of that fight, should it happen?
It will tell us a lot more of what we want to know. It will tell us whether Spike O'Sullivan, tell us whether both of them are for real, basically. It will tell us whether both of them are for real. Eubank's a very unfulfilled talent right now. That's all I can say. That's the best I can say about him.
Right.
Spike O'Sullivan, for me, is a good, strong fighter without doing anything exceptional.
Right.
That's what he is. He's a good, strong pro who is, and strong being the operative word, he is one of these stronger middleweights in the British Isles, no doubt about that.
Right.
He's on a Martin Murray level of strength. And then we've got to see how would he be caught easily, how he reacts to Eubank getting caught. I certainly think he will make Eubank fight for a lot of minutes and a lot of rounds. And then we'll see the answers. Whether was it a case of Eubank holding back in the first 5 rounds against Billy Joe Saunders because he doesn't trust his stamina, or was it just a case of they were going to hopefully let Billy punch themselves out? There'd be a lot of questions answered, wouldn't there?
Absolutely. Let's move on to this. Obviously, this week now. There's lots to talk about this week. Obviously, first up, you've got Andy Lee. Obviously, Andy Lee. You were in the corner when he scored that knockout win over John Jackson.
John Jackson.
Yes.
I was there. Amazing night at the Garden because it was on the same bill. It was chief support to Cotto Martinez.
Yes.
So it doesn't get any bigger than that. It was unbelievable. The crowd were unbelievable. It's great memories. I remember Andy getting in the ring to Native New Yorker, which the crowd loved.
Right.
Native New Yorker, that old tune by Odyssey, which is great. And it was a 50-50 fight going in. It was, he wins this fight, his career goes on. If he loses this fight, his career pretty much comes to an end as a top line fighter, or a fighter on the fringes of being a top line fighter. There's so much riding on this Koborov fight tonight. If Andy wins it, he's right in the middle of the middleweight picture, and I will be so happy for him if he does.
Andy Lee, he's been around for years, hasn't he? And you just talk about him. When you talk about Andy Lee, you talk about Kronk, you talk about Emmanuel Stewart. You can't shift that. That's where that's where he got a lot of his, tutelage from with Emmanuel Stewart, and you really can't ignore that. But Andy Lee, his career, it always seems to me that he been there for so long, but he hasn't quite fulfilled what he was meant to do in some circles. It always feels that way. That he's always going to be known as the nearly man. He had that fight against Chavez, but Chavez looked like he was a cruiserweight that night. And Andy Lee did really well in that fight.
Early rounds,
Now, the John Jackson fight, we go back to, he got dropped heavily early in the first round, and the question marks would have been asked then, was weight a problem? But he pulled out a great shot and finished Jackson off. Now he's taking a fight at Koborov at middleweight against a guy who is a good puncher, a very good amateur record. As a pro of recent times, he hasn't looked that spectacular.
I say he's a decent puncher. I don't think he's a good or great puncher.
Don't you?
No. I watched his last few fights.
Right.
he's a heavy puncher.
Yes.
Rather than a classic one-punch hitter. He's a heavy puncher. And I'll be honest with you, if you look at Andy's knockout percentage, Andy's got a higher knockout percentage.
Okay.
Andy hits, as he proved with John Jackson.
Yes.
Andy hits. You see a lot of Andy's at highlight reels. He hits with that left hand and now subsequently the right hook. Because that's something that when I was in the camp that we always worked on, because a lot of southpaws, even though they're good lead jabbers, they don't actually use the right hook as much as a damaging shot as what an orthodox fighter uses his left hook for.
Right.
You know, and that's something that worked, and thankfully it came through in the fight. When he was having a fight, you could see in the John Jackson fight, he decided, you know what, I'm a few rounds down here, I'm gonna have a fight, and he came out, had a fight, and won, even just after he got staggered. So. When it comes to punching power, I think they're both on the level. If anything, Andy's slightly the heavier puncher. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Andy hurt this guy.
Okay.
Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
What about, the other thing I was going to ask is, I noticed, because I went back and watched the fight with Jackson last night, and I noticed as soon as Lee gets tagged, he wants to, fire back with punches.
Yeah.
Rather than tie up and maybe get himself out of trouble. Now against Jackson, he got away with that shot. It was a beautiful shot that he landed. The question, I only asked myself one question with that: was that a planned shot, which he'd been waiting to throw, or was that more of a get out of jail shot?
Get out of jail. He decided to have a fight. Andy's as brave as they come. We saw that in the Chavez fight. And people say it's crazy. Even if he fought Golovkin, I know Andy Lee would go out on his shield.
Yep.
Yeah, Golovkin would be in a fight. Before that fight was over, there'd be no Andy Lee backing off. He'd just say, you know what, I can't back off, because when you back off against Golovkin, you give him so much leverage. I truly believe you're going to have to stay in the pocket. For anybody to beat Golovkin, they're going to have to stay in the pocket. Nobody will beat that man from the outside. Nobody. So that was a game plan. When the fight was being mooted and when it was being spoken about a few months back, Andy fighting Golovkin in New York, when we started working the pads, it was all about staying in the pocket and busting up Golovkin. When I say busting him up, catching him on the soft part of the face.
Yep.
Hopefully bust his eyes up so he's at least hindered while he's having to work away.
Yep.
Just make it two gladiators, man. And Andy's got that gladiator mentality. He really has, and he knows this is his last chance against Koborov. And this is Koropov's first real fight. Andy's now had Chavez, John Jackson, Brian Vera, and the McEwen fight earlier in his career when he came back and stopped him.
Right.
So this will be his fifth, what I'd say, top level, been there before fight.
Right.
And I think that counts for a lot.
Okay. Do you think that counts for enough to win the world title?
Against Koborov, yes. So
you think you're going with a Lee victory?
I'm going for a Lee victory, either late stoppage or points.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question is, obviously you were part of that camp. What's happened since?
Oh, what, for me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just decided to go on my own. I was thinking about it before we went back out to New York with Mike Perez.
Right.
I was thinking about, I need to be my own man. I need to be, sort of like number one in the camp, Ari. Like sort of chief head trainer. And I just felt at that time, me and Adam have been very, very close. We've known each other since we were 15.
Right.
And it was just time for me to make a break and go out on my own. He's got his way of doing things. He's got a very good way. He's got a very successful way of doing things. And I just wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do things my way with a couple of fighters that I've got. So I've got Georgie Keane at the moment, but still looking out for more, looking for young talent. I've got a couple of people that have approached me about their fighters, so that looks interesting for the new year.
Okay.
So yeah, things are looking good. I'm happy. I'm happy with Georgie Keane at the moment.
Okay.
So just keep on working, doing that way. Yeah, that's all it was.
So you're training. So where are you based now?
I'm based at Urban Kings Gym in King's Cross.
Oh,
it's
local
it's
to me.
Martial art gym, but it's got a fabulous boxing setup. So that's where you can find me and Georgie Keane down there 4 or 5 times a week.
Huh.
I'm part of the iBox family as well. I always go up to see Alan Smith. Alan Smith's been my friend for many, many years in boxing. So, me and Georgie always make the pilgrimage up to Hayes in Kent every other Friday to go up there and spar with Bradley Skeet, Johnny Garton, Lloyd Elliott. So, yeah, we do like going up there.
Oh, wow. I think Bayloric TV are going to have to come down and do some filming.
Yeah, we'd love to have you down there, man. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, further on the fights tonight, we've got Keith Thurman against Leonard Bundu.
Keith Thurman, man. I'll tell you what, right? I love talking about that guy. Because you know why?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to fight everybody.
Right.
You know, and he's the name that nobody else mentions because he's got low marketability factor, but he's dangerous.
Okay.
He is dangerous, and that will be proven tonight by Bundu. Bundu's already proven what he's going to do. He's already said that he's going to box him and pick his shots. Now, we can honestly say that when he fought Gavin, he didn't do that. He just got in Gavin's face, forced Gavin up against the ropes, and kept him there.
Right.
He now knows that he can't. I think he deep down, and he and his people know that if he tries to go in there mixing fire with Furman, that's what Furman wants. And Furman will win convincingly in that manner. So, but I expect Furman to win convincingly. To be honest with you, I really do. Yeah.
I've been talking to Keith for a long time now. I mean, I think where Bayloric, he's got to do lots of long interviews with him.
Mm-hmm. And
the one thing I've said to Keith over and over and over again, and he keeps saying it to me, I said, you keep sticking your chin out. You keep, and he says to me, oh man, that's cool. He said, I just like to test my chin. And I said, Keith, that's exciting, that's great, but it's reckless.
Yeah.
You know, he goes, yeah, but you know, if you go in the shower, you're gonna get wet. I said, yeah. I said, yes, Keith, you're gonna get wet, but you get wet because you know you're going in the shower. You know you're gonna get hit with some water. That's understandable. But to stick your chin out and get it tested.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I said, for God's sake, man, listen.
That's the one technical flaw that he has got. That when he punches, his chin comes up in the air, and I don't know why that hasn't been trained out of him. And it could be his undoing. But for now, what it is, I love the fact that he has an unbelievable belief in his power. And no little accuracy as well. He's a good boxer.
He is. His amateur career. His amateur career that people don't talk about.
Out of Clearwater in Florida.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a great amateur career. So he's got, and this is what I say, it's about levels. That's what I said about, this is what I said to you before, the Eubanks, Joe Saunders fight. This fight's about levels. Sometimes levels, when a fighter's got, it's different. When a fighter's got a really good amateur style, but a flaky pro mentality, that'll always find them out.
Yep.
But when you've got a good amateur style, like an Errol Spence, but you haven't got a flaky amateur, you've got a proper pros mentality, that you are going to engage your opponent, then that makes you quite formidable. Because you've got the fundamentals in place, and you whack. So that makes you quite formidable. And the great thing about Keith is that he might go over, but if you stop him, you better you will have earned it. If you beat Keith Thurman, you will have earned it.
Is there any way Bundu can cause an upset tonight?
Short of Keith not having the chin that I think he has, and walking out in the first round and getting nailed in the first round, no.
What about if Keith decides to... the one way I think Bundu could win this fight, not that I want to see it happen, obviously, is Keith... Bundu being able to show that he's got a fantastic chin, can absorb the punches, can start making Keith fight backwards against the ropes, and start landing them body shots.
That would be... that'd be amazing. If he can do that, then he's got a chance. If he can do that, because that's the only chance he's got. The thing is, if it comes down to boxing ability, he will get caught coming in.
That's it.
He will get caught coming in. If he can take those shots coming in and then impose himself, then he's got a chance. But that's a big if, man. That's a big if. 22 knockouts in 24 fights. But that's not to be sniffed at.
I agree with you. But then again, I've got not be, as some people say, a fanboy. The other thing is, well, out of the 22 opponents, we're now starting to move into elite level. We're talking about now, Jesus Soto Carras, Diaz, and now we're starting to move up. Bundu's unbeaten. We don't know how good Bundu is.
Yeah.
We don't know how good he is.
I personally think Bundu's on a level of the Jesus Soto Karasis. He's on that level.
Right.
And just look at what Furman did with him. He didn't beat them up. He dispensed with them.
But he did get rocked in the first round.
Yeah, but listen, Ray Leonard got rocked by Marcus Geraldo. Ray Leonard was getting rocked up until he hurt Hearns in the 6th round, and he got rocked after that. Getting rocked, that's part of the game. That's what I don't understand. People say, oh, he's solid chin, he never gets hurt. Listen, you're getting hit on your chin with 8 or 10 ounce gloves. That ain't supposed to be so. That ain't supposed to be so. If you're genetically blessed enough to have density of bone that you can take a shot, God bless you.
Frotch.
Most of us ain't.
Yeah, yes.
Carl Frotch, Marvin Hagler,
yes.
Ray Leonard, they're blessed. Yeah?
Yeah.
They're blessed. The rest of us, mere mortals. Yeah? What happened every time Roy Jones Jr. got touched on the chin? Every time.
Pillow time.
And I'm going back to Louis Del Valle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every time he was caught clean on the chin, he was wobbled or he went over. Doesn't take away from his greatness.
No, it doesn't.
It's just a vulnerability, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Just a vulnerability. If Furman's got it, listen, the fact is, he's game enough. Until he's being counted, he just looks to have that mentality.
He does.
Till 10's counted over him, he's going to be fighting till he drops.
Do you know who he reminds me of? When I first met him, I first spoke with him, it was like, there was the David Hay thing. But it's not that now. It's more the Nigel Benn.
Yeah, yeah.
You see that?
I see that in him. I definitely see that.
The Nigel, the Dark Destroyer. And you know which Dark Destroyer? The Dark Destroyer that fought in Finsbury Park.
Yeah.
The Night Fight Watson. That Nigel Benn.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was it.
You can see
might be the Platts. It might be the Platts.
You can see the comparisons there because Ben used to load up with them shots.
Yeah.
It was only after Watson's.
But you got to remember, I've known Nigel since '86 when he came on the APA scene when he beat Rod Douglas in the Northeast Divs final.
Yep.
And then he went on. He was supposed to be picked for the Commonwealth team, but somehow he had a falling out with Team England. Then he went pro. So I've known Nigel for that long. So Nigel was always a banger.
Right.
But he wasn't that great a boxer until he got with Jimmy Tibbs.
Right.
He wasn't that great a boxer. He didn't really have an idea what to do with his jab.
Yeah.
And Michael did. Michael had fantastic fundamentals, and that is why I sparred with Michael for that fight.
Yep.
I just did a bit of speed work with him before, just about a week before the fight.
Yep.
And I always knew from the minute they made that fight, I knew Michael Watson was all wrong for Nigel Benn. Now, if you get back to Furman.
Yep.
You look at it technically on the world welterweight scene, only a Mayweather and a Khan are possibly wrong for him style-wise. But if he hits either of them on the chin, particularly Khan, and I don't say that because Khan's chinny, it's just that, Khan, he is vulnerable, but I wouldn't say he's chinny. I would say that he's vulnerable, and he looks really strong at welterweight. He looked really strong against Collazo. There was never any point in that fight that you thought Collazo was going to bang him out. Yeah,
okay, that's good. We've moved us straight into that next one. Alexander Khan, thank you for that. I go back to that Collazo fight, and there's two things I saw, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here. But the two things I saw was, in all the highlight reels I saw of Khan dropping Collazo and attacking, he was open for the counter straight left hand over the top. He was square on a lot of the times, and his chin was there in the air, ready to get whacked over.
Against the southpaw?
Yes.
From the southpaw?
From the southpaw.
Why didn't it happen?
Pardon?
Why didn't it happen?
Well, Collazo boxed like an idiot. Let's be fair. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He went in there confident.
He had his hands dropped down by his sides.
Listen, it goes back again. Let's not make any excuses why the loser lost. Let's look at why the winner won. Yeah?
He did well.
I'm not interested in if he'd have boxed like this or even he didn't. Simple as. Khan dominated him with hand speed and movement.
Agreed. And we're not knocking that.
He didn't win it. He dominated.
Yeah. Well, I'm not knocking that. But I'm saying we're talking about Alexander now.
Let's not go down that. Well, Collazo wasn't the Collazo. He's not supposed to be the Collazo we thought he was. He's been a pro blasted 20 years.
That's true.
You know, he's been a pro 20 years. He's not supposed to be the same man at 35 that he was when he was 25. You know, he got lucky against a flattering to deceive Victor Ortiz. He met him on the right night for Collazo, finished him, got him out of there. Now he's moved on, but he's fighting a big, young, well-drilled Amir Khan, and that's what Virgil Hunter has done really well with that kid. If you notice, Khan weren't throwing no 4s and 5-punch combinations. No, that's a thing of history now. He weren't throwing no 4 or 5-punch combinations. It was ones and 2s. The most he was throwing was 3 and then move it. Because the book on Khan is punch when he punches. Because when he throws 5 shots, you just got to swing. Because you know where his head will be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So, Virgil Hunter's smart enough to have eliminated the chance of him getting caught by making him throw less shots in a combination.
Okay.
And it worked. Worked a treat.
Okay, so against Alexander now. Your thoughts?
Khan wins. A younger Devin Alexander of even 2.5, 3 years ago gives him heaps of trouble. This Devin Alexander, he hasn't boxed anybody as good as Khan, let's say since Bradley.
Okay.
Bradley. He hasn't boxed anybody as good as Khan since Bradley. And I think that will be his undoing. It will let us see whether he's got any more ambition, because he's going to have to take some licks to beat Khan. There's one thing when you fight Khan, because he's so quick, you will get hit.
Yep.
And when you get hit, you got to say to yourself, boy, I'm in this for the long haul, like Danny Garcia was.
Yep.
Because Danny Garcia was getting licked out of sight until Khan dropped him.
And I actually bet that Khan would get knocked out by the left hook by Danny Garcia.
Did ya?
Yeah. I predicted it. And you know what? I actually got it on video. And you know when I knew that they would knock him out?
Yeah.
I went to the bookies as soon as Khan said, yeah, the final press conference, he turned around and said, I'm going to knock you out inside 3 rounds. I said, right, I'm going to the bookies. And I ran to the bookies. I put 20 quid down. I said, you see that? He's going to come out and try and knock him out. And he ain't knocking Garcia out. He's going to get caught in the left hook.
You know, it's with Virgil, he's not allowed to. Virgil, I mean, with all due respect, Virgil's got him like a dog on a leash. He's got him like a dog on a leash. He reins him in. There's a couple of times when you could see he wanted to go to town and collapse, and Virgil just said to him, calm the hell down. We've got the fight won. We're going to win it our way. Yeah? Simple as.
Okay.
I think he's very big welterweight now, Khan. God knows how he was doing light welterweight. He's a very big welterweight. So I've got him winning this fight. Not comfortably. I think Devin might ask questions of him, but I've got Khan winning it a late stoppage or points.
I'm going the other way. I'm going Alexander KO.
Okay. Very interesting.
I'm going Alexander KO, and I'm looking for the straight left hand over the top as Khan throws Alexander over the top with the left hand. I saw too many openings against Luis Collazo. I think Alexander's got faster hands than Collazo. I think Alexander's a better boxer than Collazo. I think Alexander's fought he's fought bigger punches than Khan. And I just feel that Khan, on the inside, there's question marks. The other thing is, I saw the fight he had against Jesus Soto Carras. It went 12 rounds, but in that fight, it showed me that Alexander's prepared to stand in the pocket and trade, not like he used to. The old Alexander wouldn't have done that.
With all due respect,
yep.
Against, you got to remember, Collazo doesn't go over easy.
No.
Yeah? And he got the life beaten out of him in that fight with Khan. Khan's a lot stronger at welterweight now. Jesus Soto Carras is a heavy-handed, but he's not a world-class puncher.
Right.
So when you've got technique like Alexander, you can afford to take a chance against Jesus Soto Carras.
Right.
You can afford, he's gonna have to take a chance against Khan because he's outreached massively. You know, he's outreached, so he's gonna have to have good time, good head movement, and be willing to take a couple of shots to get in there to land his own. Thing is, if Khan was with many other trainers, No trainers of name or anything. I'm not going to say that anyone trains it, but I really like Virgil Hunter.
I like Virgil.
I really like the way he teaches. I like the way he does corner work. I think the only thing I don't like is the way he makes fighters turn their heads to him in the corner. What's that all about? But you know, he's very what's the word I'm looking for? He's absolutely assured of what he's telling the fighter. That he has no doubts of what instructions he's telling his fighters, and he's very often spot on.
My only concern with Virgil Hunter, I see he sounds very one-paced when he's talking in the corner. He's very cool, very smooth talking. He should release some sort of like smooth jazz album. He's just very smooth talking, and I find at times that if you want pace or you want to inject some sort of life into somebody, he can't do that. That's what I've noticed in him.
Why?
I don't know. I saw him.
Let me say something.
You know who I saw that fight with?
No. It comes down to a fighter's mentality.
That's true.
When you work closely with a fighter, he knows when you're asking him to go up the levels. You ain't got to shout at him to do it. Yeah, Ray Arcel never shouted at anybody in all of his 60 or 70 years in the game. Never ever did you see Ray Arcel shouting at an opponent. Never had to. All he did was clean their face up, say to him, go out there, do what you got to do. He doesn't have to shout. Eddie Futch, same as. You ever see Eddie Futch shout?
No.
They don't have to shout. They don't have to raise their voice. They don't have to raise their voice. They are pointed and they are respected in what they've got to say. And one thing with Virgil Hunter, everyone that works in his corner, you can see they're respected. So, you know, it's all about the fighter. No matter how, you know what? He's a good corner man. But if he hasn't got the product to be good with, he won't be recognised as good. Do you understand?
Okay.
Mickey Duff always said that to me. He said he's seen. I remember when I first went pro, Mickey Duff. I'd love to go to America, be with Eddie Futch. I'd love to go and meet Phil Torrance. And he said to me, Gary, be careful, because I've seen more fighters make trainers than I've seen trainers make fighters.
Wow. And
I never understood what he said until later on in my career, when I thought, yeah, he's right. It's the fighters that make trainers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the fighters that make trainers. If you know, no disrespect. There's a lot of trainers that look at perfect example. Alton Murchison.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I need to say, you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I know you're going with this.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. Yeah? Until you produce multi-world class champions, you're not really a world class trainer. I'm not a world class trainer. I aspire to be, but I know what I like in a fighter, and I know what I want
okay.
to
Then the argument is then Mayweather, Roger Mayweather can't be a world class trainer because he's only training his son. Yet his son is pound for pound king.
All he's ever done is train the son. He's not interested in training anyone else.
Well, so then is he a world class trainer or not?
This is the question. I personally think it's such a tough one, because this kid's a once in a generation fighter. You know, no matter what you say about him, and I've got a lot of negative things to say about him, simply because he blows his own trumpet and doesn't deliver. If you're gonna blow your own trumpet that much, I ain't paying to watch you go 12 rounds all the time, mate.
Yeah.
Put in a spectacular win. Ray Leonard could have been the most boring, effective boxer ever, and nobody would have beaten him. With the exception of Hearns, I think he would have always had to have a fight with Hearns to beat Hearns. But with his boxing ability, with Ray Leonard's boxing ability, he could have boxed his way through his whole career and won the percentage of his fights just boxing. But he didn't want to. He wanted to give the fans what he thought they deserve, and his arrogance always made him think, I don't want to just beat you, I want to beat you up.
Yep.
And that's why he's an all-time great. For me personally, Mayweather's an all-time great boxer, but he's not an all-time great warrior. He doesn't go down in the pantheons of the Leonards, the Durans. I don't put him in that category.
Okay, but he would
put him in that category.
But then he's
But let's not digress. Until Roger Mayweather is and I'll tell you why I think Roger Mayweather is a world-class trainer. Yeah. He was so educational to watch as a fighter.
Right.
That you can just see him implementing how he fought as a pro into his fighters.
Right.
Should they be good enough to take it on? That's all it is. You just need the product.
Right.
You need the product.
That's
you know,
true.
I can scream about the rooftops about what I want to see in a fighter, but until I get a fighter who's willing to take on what I say in moments of stress, because that's what happens when someone is trying to punch your head in. You're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you control your stress and still look world class and still do world class things? Very few people can.
That's true. Very true.
Very few people can. Yeah.
We close with Timothy Bradley against Diego Chavez.
Yeah. Right, Chavez, didn't he get chucked out the ring? Who was it that got chucked out the ring?
Yeah, against
that's the same guy, isn't it?
Brandon Rios, but he got one timed by Keith.
He what?
He got one timed by Keith.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of Keith. See, that's what I'm saying, man. I remember watching Keith knock him out and thinking, mate, this guy just comes to knock people out. Because Chavez is a prototypical tough Argentinian, isn't he?
That could punch, and he had a good knockout streak beforehand.
And Furman just said, you know what, let's have it. I'm knocking you out. So I expect a Bradley win on points.
Yeah, that's why I went Bradley points. I actually
Bradley points. Bradley's not a banger.
He's not a banger, but you know what I noticed about Chavez? He didn't like it when he's been put on him. Since the Thurman fight, he didn't like it being put on him. And that's why when Rios, who's not a big welterweight, right, put it on Chavez didn't want to know. Now, if Rios can put it on him, and he's not a big welterweight, and then you've got Timothy Bradley, who, you know, he's a tank in the way he's built.
He's a tank who doesn't whack, though.
You say that, but didn't he drop Provechnikov?
Yeah, was that at 40 or 47?
I'm not sure. I think, was it at 47 or 40?
It was 47.
Was it?
It was 47.
Yeah.
Yeah. No fight, you notice. All them man, I want to fight Mayweather, I want to fight Khan, Furman wants to fight Mayweather, Furman wants to fight Khan. Nobody mentions that Siberian name. No one mentions his name, man. He's like, I don't want to fight. So, yeah, Bradley can whack a bit. I don't think he's a world-class hitter, as his record suggests.
Right.
I think, you know, if he could whack, he'd be a really good fighter. Really, really good fighter.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm still going to go Bradley points. Might be a late stoppage, because Chavez has shown that he's looking for a way out.
Yep.
And he showed that in the Rios fight.
Yep. I'm going Bradley stoppage within 6 to 8 rounds.
Really?
Yeah. Why? Because I think Bradley's going to swarm him. He's going to swarm him. Not like Furman.
So.
He's going to swarm him.
Well, the only problem is that when Bradley swarms people, he gets licks, and then his trainer goes crazy.
I love him and his trainer. It's funny.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've covered most of the fights.
Mm-hmm.
Have we not?
Yeah.
Ishe Smith fought last night. He got beat good and proper by
Lara.
Well, that was expected, wasn't it?
Yeah. Lara's another one of the he's at the head of the Who Needs Him club.
Right.
Him and Providnikov are the names nobody mentions.
Okay, I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna leave you with a name to go and do some research on. In terms of the UK, I brought the big Thurman interviews. I brought the first person to interview Terence Crawford.
Yeah.
And now I'm bringing a new name to the table for 2015. Rashidi Ellis. Check him out. He could be the next Roy Jones. He could be.
Wow.
Could be.
What weight?
I think welterweight, if I'm right.
Wow, I'll tell you what, man.
Yeah.
It's so much, you know, as we've been talking, and I was thinking about it even before we started talking about how great is the welterweight division at the moment.
It is. We haven't even talked about Kell Brook.
I know, and we were even forgetting Kell Brook, and I mean, him and Katamir can't fight in this country. That's a stadium fight. That's not no O2 fight. That's a stadium fight.
It is.
So, you know, it's just great. So, I will check out this guy, Rashidi Ellis, and we'll see what he's got.
Let me know what you think.
Obviously, right now, I know he won't have fought anybody yet.
Yep.
And this is what I like about Furman. He's fought the solid pros, the solid bordering on dangerous pros.
Yep.
And he's not beaten them, he's chinned them.
Yep.
That's why I like him. That's why I like him.
I mean, Rashidi Ellis, I think he's got about 10 pro fights now, so he's still young in terms of that, and he was the #1 amateur in America.
Okay, well that counts for a lot, because
right.
You're champion of half a continent.
There you go.
That's what you're gonna, and that's why I knew. I remember when I first watched Danny Garcia against Eric Morales.
Right.
This guy ain't that good for what they be saying about him. And then I realised he's national amateur champion.
Hey, you know what? Terence Crawford told me he boxes better. He boxes better. He boxes better in the amateurs than he does as a pro.
Really?
Yes.
Apart from the night he beat the Argentinian, he was fantastic.
He was fantastic that night.
He was brilliant, Matisse.
The fight I'd like to see is Garcia Pacquiao.
Oh yeah. You're a good matchmaker.
Yeah, I'd love to see that fight. I really
That'd
would.
Be a great fight.
And I'd like to see Mikey Garcia versus Crawford.
Yes. That'd be a good fight. Mikey Garcia is a very, very, very good fighter.
Or Crawford
there was
versus.
One time, me
yep.
and Frank Joseph were having an argument. He was getting ready. It was mooted that he was going to fight Gamboa.
Right.
And I said he will not only fight Gamboa, he will knock Gamboa out. And Frank Joseph was like, no, he won't. I said,
there you go.
He will knock Gamboa out.
I predicted that as well.
That brother can punch Mikey Garcia.
Well, I predicted that Crawford would knock out a Gamboa. People laughed at me.
Yeah. I said it as well. The minute they made the fight, just too short, too small. Crawford too good. Simple as. Too good.
And Crawford showed me another dimension. He showed me when he fought Beltran.
Yeah, I told you beat him, didn't I?
Yeah, I really thought. But you know what? The predictions I've made, I've done a good look at these recent predictions I've been making. It just seems to me that guys show another level to their game. They up the game. So I make predictions based on what I see of them. But I don't seem to give room for anything else.
And they say, right.
Yeah.
Who's that Negro
It's true. It must be.
That's right.
It must be so.
Take exception to your predictions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gary Logan, thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV.
Absolute pleasure.
We've really enjoyed this, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go and get some sleep now because I'm on at 2 a.m. with
Yep.
Bugsy at Boxnation.
We look forward to see you in Boxnation tonight. We'll be looking out for you.
All right, mate. Take care.
Take care. All the best.